It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I am Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host Smitty. Be sure to follow us on all of our social medias at Around the 412. Also, check us out on YouTube. If you're not watching the show there already, hit the subscribe button. It's free, helps us out a lot. Hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post a video, or if we go live. We occasionally go live, and I think we're during football season. We're going to be going live quite a bit, so if you want to check that out as well. Also, check out the description of the show where you see all the links to our great sponsors, as well as year 8 of Rocking Around the 412. It is our Christmas fundraiser that we've been doing the past 7 years, and being able to help children in the local Pittsburgh area, provide them with the Christmas that they've always deserved. Been able to help 177 different kids over the last 7 years. Want to get that at least over 200 this year and be able to help as many as possible. We have a GoFundMe link below down in the description to donate to us directly. You can also donate to us as well, just by reaching out to us individually, not just through the GoFundMe. GoFundMe does take a little piece. And they also don't allow prizes, but don't worry, there are prizes and incentives for donating. So if you're interested in, you can hit us up, or you can just go through GoFundMe still. That it always works. Also, there's going to be the East Rochester Salvation Army Angel Tree that we have partnered up with in the name of our late friend Dalton Keene. So if you want to get involved with that as well, school has been pretty much back. It's almost back in Pennsylvania. It's back here in Oklahoma already. They're going to be focusing on Christmas coming up shortly, so you can get involved with that coming up soon. But for now, GoFundMe link is down below.
Absolutely. And just one more preseason game to get through before we got the real thing. 2 weeks from the time this episode is coming out, Cowboys and Eagles will kick off the NFL season. Looking forward to that. Will Micah Parsons be a part of that game? TBD. However, I don't want to say it's a similar situation, but there was a couple contract type things that we talked about on last week's episode that doesn't seem like anything changed other than the fact that those guys are like completely back in the fold. I don't know about you. Certainly did not expect to see Chris Boswell kicking last Saturday during the preseason game. And it sounded like the only reason that he was pulled out of action when he was due to the injury to Christian Kuntz. So if that wouldn't have happened, we might have seen more of Chris Boswell in that game. And then Cam Heyward returned to practice in a full capacity this past week as well. So I don't think anything changed on any front. I think those guys just realized nothing was going to happen and weren't going to sacrifice, obviously, the game checks or anything like that. Want to be back in the fold. And I don't know where you're at with this, but it's, to me, just goes to show how overblown this was from the fan base, in my opinion, and how disappointing it is that there's a lot of people that were throwing shade that was, in my opinion, very unwarranted at Cam Heyward just for nothing. Literally no reason at this point. Like, nothing changed from either side. He's back in the fold. He's going to be around. He's going to play. Nothing changed. And now these people have, I think a lot of people, right or wrong, in my opinion, very wrong, have changed their opinion about who Cam Heyward is.
Yeah, which is such a shame, too, because of who this guy is. It'd be different if people wanted to feel this way about somebody that's getting their second contract after a rookie deal, or somebody that is relatively young within the organization. But when it's somebody that is the caliber of player and the caliber of guy that Cam Heyward is, it's just a little bit disappointing that people did react the way they did. I mean, if you want to have your opinion on whether you think that the Steelers should give him a new contract or not, that's up to you. You don't have to agree or disagree with whatever we say. But I mean, basically, like, taking like almost personal shots at Cam Heyward and questioning like his integrity, that to me is a little extreme. And I just think it's unwarranted. Changing your opinion of the type of man and player that Cam Heyward is just because of what really is a nothing situation. You and I both talked about it when it first leaked, that this really is going to be nothing whenever ultimately something does get happening. Cam Heyward's not going to miss any time regardless of the situation. There's no way he was going to hold out. I feel like people you don't know Cam Heyward well enough, not that we know him personally, but like, you don't know him if by now to know that he was never going to like hold out and hold this over the Steelers' head like that, then I don't know what to tell you. But obviously, the situation is going to work itself out. And yeah, it's a shame that it got to that point with some of the fan base to where it's almost like they think less of Cam Heyward because of this situation. Because, I mean, in reality, this happens all the time. It happens. I mean, look at just a couple months ago. I mean, the conversation shifted away from TJ Watt after he signed his big extension, which we all knew was going to happen. But, I mean, we had people talking about how the Steelers don't need TJ Watt, how he's not going to be any good anymore. They shouldn't even give him that contract and that they should trade him for value while they can. When, in reality, like, if that's how you feel, that's fine. But I just think it's all just a bit of extreme.
Yeah. Yeah. And Alan said, Alan was talking to me about this on the podcast, and this is kind of where in my mind I had that thought of how disappointing it all was. Just there wasn't even like a financial gain on Cam's side to have this fan base turn on him. So, and that's obviously not everybody. It's not even close to the majority. It's a very vocal minority, I think, that felt that way. But Alan was saying, like, very clearly, like, it seemed from everybody around, like, it was more of just a request, like, not a demand from his side. He was hoping that something would happen, but it wasn't like, hey, if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to show up. I know that, like, he worded it kind of weird when he talked to the media about, like, but that's just a negotiation tactic. I don't think there was ever a possibility of him not being around.
Personally, for me, too, I think that, and I don't want to speak for the fans that feel that way, but I do think that they probably look at that news coming out and then paired with the fact that he wasn't really doing anything in practice, which, side note, he wasn't going to be doing anything anyway, regardless of a contract situation. But I just think that they could just like pair the two together and really kind of put some gas on their feelings. But either way, it was never going to work out where the Steelers and Cam Heyward were not going to have a good relationship about this. He was going to play. I was never worried about it, and it's just a shame that it got to that point.
Yeah, I think if worse came to worse, like, he would have gotten paid was kind of my mindset, was there was going to be some adjustment of his contract. I thought the most likely thing would be to borrow like $5 million from next season's salary and guarantee it this year, like similar to what they did with Antonio Brown, because I know they don't want to like break a precedent and give an extension or anything 2 years out. And I don't think Cam necessarily would want years added. I think if they were to add years, it would be a team thing to be able to spread out cap hits and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that was like a worst case scenario if we get like super close to the beginning of the season. We still don't have a resolution here. But it looks like we got one. So Chris Boswell, Cam Heyward back in the fold. That's obviously great to see. And we'll see what to make of that. And if there's any drama, hopefully not, that could come up before the season starts, because it kind of looks like we got a free runway now. Mentioned the Christian Kuntz injury that happened. Very unfortunate. He says he's going to play week 1. That is insane to me. I mean, I can't imagine the pain. It's going to be a tolerance thing, obviously, for him. They did sign a long snapper. They would need one, obviously, for this third preseason game regardless. But, yeah, Christian Kuntz with a fractured sternum, apparently hell-bent on playing in week 1, which is pretty crazy. Nick Herbig, who had been injured, played in this second preseason game and got re-injured. He hurt his hamstring. So we'll see hamstrings are so weird. You talked about a massive variance in what the timeline could be for a hamstring injury, but the fact that he was still on the sidelines and stuff, and I'm hoping it was just like felt something, but it's not too serious and he'll be able to go for week 1. They definitely need him because we can dive into the second preseason game and what we saw. I'm just, and I don't want to keep talking about this and bashing the guy. I'm hopeful that Jack Sawyer turns into a good pro, and I know it's very early in his career here. I have no faith in him being able to be that third edge rusher right now from a pass rush perspective. So I think they need Nick Herbig.
I think so too. If I were the Steelers, wouldn't have him do a thing until week 1. And even then, you don't even know if you're going to get him week 1. Hamstrings are so finicky. They're easy to re-aggravate. So definitely like take your time if you're the Steelers perspective. But yeah, I mean, Jack Sawyer, a lot of promise as a run defender. I mean, he's good at setting that edge, but you're right in that you don't necessarily want him as your edge rusher 3 when it comes to rushing the quarterback. Didn't really show any promise in that. And we knew that, like, coming out of the draft, we knew that was going to be his qualm, is that he hasn't really figured out how to attack the quarterback that well, at least at a high level, and was going to be a good run defender off of that edge. But I think that watching at least the second preseason game, the thing that I noticed about Jack Sawyer is that I didn't even notice him. Like, he just kind of seemed invisible. It was almost like it's similar to how I felt about Derek Harmon from week 1. Not necessarily that he did anything bad, but I just didn't really notice him in week 1. Similar feeling for me about Jack Sawyer in this game. And that's not necessarily something that I want as far as like edge depth goes, especially if Nick Herbig is going to miss some time in the regular season because of this hamstring injury. So, I mean, that could be a reason. I guess the Steelers could consider keeping around a guy like DeMarvin Leal or something like that, or Ika Leota. And I don't know.
Yeah,
I just don't really feel comfortable as far as like quarterback rushers go if one of those guys go down.
Yeah, I mean, because kind of the same thing. Like I mentioned, why I thought they would only for sure keep the 4. It's because Malik Harrison can also play some edge, but that's also like very similar in terms of skill set to Sawyer, where it's I think he can set the edge against the run, but I don't think he's doing much in terms of rushing the passer off the edge. So, yeah, I don't know where you get that presence from. I think it's going to have to be a 3-headed committee. If Nick Herbig is out, and it's just going to have to be Highsmith, TJ. Well, Highsmith was working his way back from injury as well. I mean, he's working his way back from that groin thing. He was out there at practice, returned the same day that Cam did. I know that Tomlin didn't roll him out. He only rolled out 4 guys for the preseason so far. That was like out of healthy players. Like, being that Highsmith has just returned to practice, he's not going to play in this game, which is actually tonight. By the time you're watching or listening to this. So there's my prediction. Also, can we just talk about how last week's show just went to dirt like immediately after coming out? Like, Tomlin said the starters weren't going to play, which we thought that they would in that second one. You look back at the previous year, like 2024, Fields and Wilson split reps the entire game. Those are the only 2 quarterbacks that saw action in their second preseason game. So different approach this year. What's your take on that, by the way? Just the fact that it's Aaron Rodgers, TJ Watt, Cam Heyward, DK Metcalf, for sure the 4 that will not see any preseason action. I'm kind of expecting, even though they haven't said it yet, that like Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, Alex Highsmith, they're also going to fall into that bucket. I think where the difference could be, I think Pat's going to play. I think like Jalen Warren could play, Joey. So like younger vets, I think still could, but those older guys I don't think are going to. What's your thought?
Who's your source on Pat? Just curious. Anyway,
he told me he's supposed to play 2 series. That's what he said. So we'll see if that's the case for everybody.
Yeah. So I think that as far as the guys you named between Watt, Aaron, Cam, I feel like those guys, I'm expecting them to not play, honestly. And I feel like the quarterback situation is completely different than last year. With Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, we were debating on who was even going to be the starter week 1. Whether it was going to be Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. So that's why I think that they were splitting time in that second game. That's why I think that they were splitting time and seeing both of those guys a good portion of the preseason, because I think that it was a serious competition, as competition as you can get, while knowing that Russell Wilson probably wasn't going to be ready for week 1, I guess I should say. This year, I just feel like it's totally different. Like, Aaron Rodgers, should he get some in-game experience? I mean, sure, but he's also like a 20-year vet where I'm not really that worried about it. It'd be like, would anybody be worried if Ben Roethlisberger didn't play a snap in the preseason? That's kind of how I view it.
No, and
like similar
and the thing
way.
is, like, they did a joint practice with Tampa Bay where he's playing 30 plus snaps in that one, like doing much more meaningful stuff than what we're going to see in a preseason game. The joint practices, at least for the Steelers, relatively new. Like, Ben didn't do joint practice. What did he do? Like, one time? Like, it wasn't a thing. So for him to get some preseason action, at least in one game, made sense. Aaron doing joint practice reps is infinitely more valuable because in that setting with no fans, you can't record stuff, like you can't put it out there right away. You're going to see defenses actually competing and doing things, and you can it's a environment where you can actually get a good look at what you want to get a look at. Like he even mentioned, like they were throwing some good, like exotic blitzes at the offensive line, and it's a good test. You're not going to see that stuff in the preseason. Apparently, unless you're going against Mike McDonald in the Seattle Seahawks defense. I don't know what in the world they were doing, especially in their first one. Like he was legit like running different defenses. I'm like, nobody ever does this in the preseason. But anyways, what is Aaron Rodgers gaining by going and playing against Carolina, who's not playing their starters, Carolina's backup defense, who isn't going to show you a thing? Like I'm sorry, I don't see the value in it, and Aaron doesn't, and Mike Tomlin doesn't. So I don't have an issue with this. Thought about from a Russ perspective, one series, a few plays is going to be the entire difference between them getting off to a fast start as opposed to a bad start to start. If this team, and I know it's going to happen, if this team starts out slow against the Jets, fans are going to stupidly blame the fact that Aaron Rodgers didn't play in the preseason. 100%.
In my mind, it's a non-factor. I think that if Aaron Rodgers played a entire game of the preseason, it wouldn't change anything about how they're going to open in week one. Maybe that's foolish of me to not put any stock into it, but that's just how I view it. But for a guy like that, I don't think that
unless it was against the Seahawks.
Yeah, I don't think it had any value for him. And as far as the other guys too, like TJ, why would he need to play? Same with Cam. Why would he need to play? And while I wish that we could see guys like Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey, just quite frankly for my entertainment value, at least for a series or two, I don't necessarily need to see those guys either. And I think that cornerback room, while I think that it's probably figured out itself if they're keeping like 6 guys, I would say that they're probably rounded out to who they're going to keep already. But I still think that you should give the guys as much competitiveness as you can. For those guys that are fighting for those spots at that point, especially since you don't have gradual cut downs anymore, you just go straight from 90 to 53. I feel like the more snaps for the guys competing for those roster spots, the better. We know how Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay are going to be, and we know that they're the starters. Give those guys that are on the bubble more of a chance.
I think the preseason entirely is either going to go away, or Allen threw this out there. It's just going to be guys that are fighting on the bubble, like veteran players that are already like stamped on the roster aren't even going to play at all. Like they'll do the joint practice stuff, which by the way, going back to that, the Chiefs, Bengals, and Saints did not do any joint practices this year. To me, that's where the misstep is. It's not playing your starters in the preseason. It's not doing any joint practices, especially for the Saints. What in the world are they doing? They're trying to figure out if Tyler Shocker or Spencer Rattler is their starting quarterback. Still haven't named one. Like, you want to talk about a team that 100% could have used that. I don't know why they weren't involved in any joint practices. This Bengals switched up a little bit by having Joe Burrow play in this preseason, trying to get out to faster starts. But again, that's not anywhere close to the same environment. So I don't know. I think this is much ado about nothing in terms of the preseason. Could you imagine the takes if somebody gets hurt playing in the preseason from one of the guys that we're talking about?
It's pointless.
So it's a lose-lose, to be honest with you, from the people that want to see these guys play, but would also be going ape, you know what, if there was an injury that took place.
What I would love to ask is, how much is one or like a couple series of a preseason game going to impact a regular season? Maybe it'll impact the first series of game one. That's it. I don't think that it really has any impact for these veteran players at all.
Yeah, I don't know. When you hear, I'm sorry, I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers' word for how he feels a joint practice is meaningful as opposed to a preseason game. I think he's been there and done enough to do so. So he knows himself and he knows what he needs in terms of reps. I'm comfortable with the process that they've had here. This is normally the portion of the show where I'd throw it to an ad for Game Changers. If you guys remember last week, I asked you guys, and I also asked Tyler to remind me to make a new ad. I'm not blaming anybody, but it didn't happen.
We failed.
But it didn't happen. So I'm just going to tell you guys about Game Changers without playing that video. I'm going to make a new one tomorrow on my lunch break. I promise. I'm going to set a reminder on my phone to do it because when I tell you guys about Game Changers, when I play that ad, it says they have over 2,000 designs. They have over 5,000 designs. So go check out Game Changers at gamechanger.com or gamechangers.la or pitch6.la. This is why I play the video.
This is atrocious.
Or pitch6.la is where you'll find all their football tees over there. You save $10 when you use code AT412 at checkout. We talked about Jalen Ramsey, talked about Aaron Rodgers. They got a bunch of different Steelers designs on top of those too. Heavyweight material. Black and white tees are true to size. Hey, I didn't mention this on the video either, so this is new. This is information you guys weren't getting on there. The black and white tees are true to size. The pepper and the ivory are oversized tees. So there you go. Save $10, like I said, using code AT412 at checkout. Love Game Changers. I rock a lot of them on here. I'm actually not rocking one right now. I probably should be, but definitely be rocking the Jalen Ramsey one tomorrow or tonight by the time you're still watching and listening to this. So hopefully he does see a series or two. But anyways, shout out to them. Link down below. Again, save $10 when you use code AT412. All right, we're back. Anyways.
High quality program around here.
Yeah, I can't put much stock into the idea that them playing a series or two in the preseason would just drastically change what the start of the season will look like for them when they go up to East Rutherford. So, I mentioned Sawyer, obviously, when we were talking about that second preseason game. The one thing that stood out to me more than anything else that in a negative direction was like very sloppy. Like, no, procedurally, like a lot of penalties that weren't happening in that first game. And that to me, maybe we didn't talk about enough in the first one, how clean the execution was. But the second game, I don't think it was there from that same standpoint. So that to me was probably the biggest shortcoming, if you will, from that second preseason game that I would say like is actually could be somewhat meaningful if it carried over.
Yeah, and I think that even going past the penalties too, a lot of what was going against the Steelers was self-inflicted. I mean, you look at the penalties, obviously, and those are mental mistakes that can be cleaned up. But then looking at a couple of the interceptions that happened in this game as well, with Logan Woodside, Mason Rudolph having a couple interceptions. I mean, Skylar Thompson had one as well, but I think the other two, Rudolph and Woodside, like those are just very terrible throws that shouldn't have been made. And Woodside, it is what it is, but like Mason Rudolph, your expected backup quarterback shouldn't be making that type of throw. And so I just feel like a lot of the Steelers was just shooting themselves in the foot more than anything, which you didn't really see in that first game. And I feel like that's where you look at the preseason and you know like none of it means anything because you look at week one and how well they played and everybody was so excited about it. Week two, it was kind of the opposite. I mean, there was definitely some good performances still there, but I just think that it was a lot of self-infliction on the Steelers' end of things for why they performed the way they did in this one.
I mean, the things that you want to see, I feel like we did see from like Rowan Wilson, feeling really good about, to be honest with you, the trajectory that he's on. I'm not sitting here saying he's going to be like 1,000-yard receiver or anything like that, but I'm starting to feel better about we were asked to give 3 bold predictions on Afternoon Drive, and one of mine was Rowan Wilson has 40 catches this year. Starting to feel pretty good about that prediction, especially because no idea in terms of, I think Calvin Austin's going to be able to go, but like, is he going to be slow out of the gate? Like, okay, you talk about guys not playing in the preseason, but he hasn't been around for 19 days now. Calvin Austin really doing anything. Like, he just started fielding punts at practice. So I think Roman Wilson could certainly make an impact, and I think he's heading in the right direction. Derek Harmon looked awesome. I thought he was like noticeable in game one, but didn't have like the splash play that you were hoping for. He had a sack on the TFL in this one, which is obviously great to see. And then Caleb Johnson looked a lot more comfortable. I think that just from one game, you saw pretty significantly the speed of the game. Him seem to really at least start to process better. I'm not saying that like, hey, one game later, everything's slowed down for him and he's like a seasoned vet. But I think that like the processing took a pretty big leap. So I think for Caleb, that's certainly good. He's going in the right direction.
Got better as the game went on too.
Yeah. already talked about Holcomb last week, how awesome it is that he's even playing, but he made a nice TFL, and just watching him move around in space, he looks like he's back to himself, pre-injury. Is there anybody else that stood out to me? I don't really think so. I will say, Rock Taylor got cut, and we're talking about that. Like, the timing is interesting. I would have thought he was for sure a practice squad guy. Yeah. I think something happened that wasn't football related with Rock Taylor that got him in the doghouse. One, to be honest with you, this is just one guy's opinion watching. I don't know how you felt. I don't know how anybody else felt. I didn't love the body language in the game. Like, I think that one where Woodside overthrew him, he kind of alligator armed it. I think he could have had a better attempt on that ball. Maybe it's a touchdown. But he just didn't seem engaged for a good portion of it. And then Ray Fittipaldo.
We know all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Ray Fittipaldo was talking about it, and he said that he was in Tomlin's doghouse. And I don't know if it was just because of that or if something else happened, but it was very odd timing. So clearly, like, for non-football reasons, they cut Rock Taylor when they did.
Mm. Yeah, I thought he had a decent game as far as like overall performance goes. Did notice that on what should have been a touchdown, did kind of alligator arm it. I like that saying. I don't even know if I've heard that before, so I do like that. Yeah, interesting timing, but I don't think that he was going to make the roster by any means. But I did think that he could be a practice squad guy. So interesting to see him go because of seemingly non-football reasons. Another one that I don't necessarily know is a standout by the box score, but I feel like is based off of our conversation last week, increasingly getting more likely to make the team to me is Scotty Miller. I just feel like his involvement in the offense is so much more elevated from last year, so much more elevated this year than I thought it would be at all. And when I compare where he was playing and when he was playing in this game to a guy like when Robert Woods was playing in this game, I feel like our conversation may be changing from last week because we both kind of felt as if Robert Woods was probably going to make the roster, even though neither of us thought he should. After that, and seeing when the Steelers are deciding to play him, I don't think Robert Woods is making this roster. And I feel like if they're going to keep five, the five are going to be DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller, Roman Wilson, and Ben Skoranek for the special teams purposes. And then if they're going to add a sixth, it's going to be someone out of the organization. But that's what I mean by I think that your wide receiver room, with all the competition on the back end of things for who could be like the fifth wide receiver, I feel like it's pretty much locked up as far as who's actually going to make this roster now. And it's just going to be whether or not they actually add somebody that's not on the roster currently.
Yeah, I honestly, like, even practice squad wise, I think it's pretty clear cut. It's going to be Keyshawn and Max Herleman making the practice squad. So I don't know, outside of those two, like McCutcheon, who's still like, I'm surprised he didn't go along with Rock Taylor, to be honest with you. You mentioned the interception Skylar Thompson had. That was on McCutcheon, in my opinion, the fact that it happened. But yeah, he's not making the roster anyways. Robert Woods is not making this roster. If you're playing that deep into a preseason game in his position, he's not making the roster. So wouldn't anticipate that happening. And you mentioned an outside guy. I still think that's on my radar to happen. Like, to what magnitude, I'm not sure, but I still think it's absolutely going to happen. But I do think it's Gabe Davis.
I feel like if it was Gabe Davis, he would have been signed. No? Am I wrong in thinking that?
I'm not saying you're wrong because I don't know for sure. I still think it's possible because he didn't sign with Buffalo either. So clearly he's either still trying to explore other options with other teams. Here's the thing. Like,
he's got a rubber knee
out there. Maybe he still can't pass the physical. I don't know. But I saw it put out there that the Steelers made him an offer he could refuse. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Because he's making $11 million this year. There's no getting around that. He is Russell Wilson from last year from a wide receiver perspective. There's no reason for anybody else to pay him more than the vet minimum. He's making $11 million regardless. The Jaguars just on the hook for that. So the question becomes, is it about him trying to get money in 2026? Because I don't think anybody's doing that either. So I don't know what them making an offer he could refuse meant. I guess is what I'm saying. And then you talk about like from a playing time, like where is he going to go that can offer him more in terms of what his on-field value would be than Pittsburgh? To me, it seems like the best possible chance for him to bounce back for 1 year and then hit free agency again. I don't know. I know I'm a homer and I have bias, but legitimately, when I look at this room and look at what they need, he's the second outside receiver. He's playing the Z. He's going to be he's a really good blocker. And God forbid something happened to DK Metcalf, he's the X.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I just have a hard time thinking there's a room out there that is going to give him better opportunity than Pittsburgh. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong. I didn't know how to take that tweet. Still think it's on the table, regardless if it's from the team side or his side. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But I'm not like, just because he left without his contract the second time, I don't think that rolls it out.
That's just interesting to me because I feel like that's normally how it kind of plays out. Is like if a guy, especially after being here twice, like
normally it's the first time even. But I will say it seems like a unique situation all around. So like I don't even know if we can compare.
I mean, maybe we get to literally like the week before the Steelers are playing, and
somebody
like,
brought this up to me.
Mean?
I wonder if shout out to Kobe on Twitter. He brought this up to me. Wonder if there's a discrepancy between the team and the player in terms of should he go on IR to start the season.
I mean, maybe.
I just think you have to keep everything in mind because, again, it's clearly not about money in 2025. It can't be. So anything else could be on the table, sure, but no point in bringing that up because it's a non-factor.
Yeah. And I will trust that the Steelers will make the best decision that they can for the room because I feel like if you're adding Gabe Davis at his peak, obviously you take him. But if they really feel like they shouldn't make that signing because of the physical or just the knee in general, I will trust their opinion on that. I'm not going to be in an uproar if he signs with Buffalo.
Well, but my thing is like for the vet men, like I don't even if he gets here and isn't productive, who cares? I mean, like I'm taking if they can sign him, sign him. If he wants to come here, I'm signing him. I don't care what it ends up looking like. If he ends up being terrible and isn't a factor in the season, you cut bait. What did you lose? There's nothing gained, nothing lost then. But yeah, from his perspective, I mentioned in terms of like the playing time, bouncing back and hopefully getting back in the market next year. I don't know what his aspirations are, but if he can go back to Buffalo, that's probably what he should be trying to do from that perspective. If he just wants to like win.
I mean, if we're talking about another team that probably could use an outside receiver, it's Buffalo.
Yeah, for sure. And they
have a bunch of
yeah. I mean, even their biggest dude, Keon Coleman, is like probably best suited as a big slot. He's going to play on the outside, but yeah, Gabe Davis, I think, would certainly make sense there. And then it just becomes a numbers game. Could the Steelers benefit from the fallout if they add Gabe Davis and have to cut somebody else?
Yeah, that's true.
But that's dwindling, by the way. You talk about other outside receiver options, and that's kind of where we can go next. I see a bunch of crap now about Romeo Doubs. Like, he's not going anywhere. They don't have Christian Watson. Dontavian Wicks is a calf injury.
Green Bay's they're out. We're not getting one from them.
No, yeah. Jaden Reed has already basically been ruled out to start the season. Savion Williams got hurt this week. Romeo Doubs returned to practice and was running with the ones. Why would they be moving him? I don't know why this is being floated out there. He's not going anywhere. And not only is he not going anywhere, it was talk about him being cut. It would be a trade.
There's not a chance. There's not a chance.
It would be a trade if anything, and it's not happening. He's going to start for the Green Bay Packers, who are going to be a good football team. They have no business moving him. No business moving him right now with everything else that they've been doing. But my point was there's been injuries all over the map, and it seems that the Steelers just continue to be affected. Like we talked about a guy, and then somebody else in that room gets hurt, and it's not happening. We have seen some wide receiver activity take place today with trades. Sky Moore getting moved, Devon Vela getting moved. was there another receiver that got moved? Or was it just those two? There's like 4 trades that happened today, but it might have only been 2 receivers. I mean, Vel would have been interesting to me, but he went for a 4th round pick and a 7th round pick. I would not have expected that's what he would return. He's like a 26-year-old second player, something like that. I mean, he's okay, but for a 4th round pick, I'm expecting more than what I think he brings to the table. If that's the going rate for receivers, maybe we don't trade for anybody. And if we don't land Gabe Davis, then I don't know where they pivot to. So I brought up a name, and I want to get your opinion on this. The Indianapolis Colts named Daniel Jones their starting quarterback over Anthony Richardson, which I think is a horrendous decision. But I think within that, it makes a guy like Alec Pierce a lot less valuable to them, because I think their offense operates entirely differently without Anthony Richardson and with Daniel Jones in there. And I think Alec Pierce becomes essentially a non-factor within that offense because of what he does well. Got 1 year left on his contract. I assume, just because I know that the Steelers have called literally everybody and asked about every player, that they've asked about him already. But that would probably be my next pivot, is a name that I'm looking at to see if Indy would be interested in dealing him.
I like that name. I like Alec Pierce. I liked him coming out of Cincinnati in, 2022, I guess. And I don't think just because he had his best year last year, that's not why I like him so much. I really think that he could be utilized. And, dude, Indianapolis going with Daniel Jones over to Anthony Richardson, if you're talking about a quarterback who is essentially as close to the best of what Anthony Richardson can get you, except he does it worse. Like, they're the same player as far as running ability, not great throwers. Why are you not playing Anthony Richardson? Why are you not picking the athlete? Why are you picking Daniel Jones?
It's because when you don't play for a little bit, it actually makes you better in the eyes of coaches sometimes. In just my opinion of this is, I think Steichen and Ballard are desperate to save their jobs. They're trying to win as many football games this year as they can, and they feel like Jones is a safer floor for running the operation. Like, he can win them 6 or 7 games, which they feel like could potentially. I think it should be disastrous.
That they looked at what Minnesota did with Sam Darnold last year and think that they could do the same thing.
Maybe. But vastly different players, like different skill sets entirely. Yeah.
And I mean, vastly different quarterback room.
Yeah. Yeah, the 2 least accurate quarterbacks last year were Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson.
Right. So if you're going to play one of them, play the guy who is an athlete.
Who you invested the 4th overall pick in. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And at least see if it hits. Because here's the thing is, you could have always gone from Anthony Richardson to Daniel Jones in season. Can you go from Daniel Jones to Anthony Richardson?
Honestly, probably at this point, I would say yeah. Because if they're at rock bottom already, then if you're starting Daniel Jones, I feel like you don't have.
Well, here's why I say that is because I think it's much more likely, because of the way that this fell out with Jones as the starter and Richardson as the backup, that, I mean, teams are going to call about Richardson. I'm sure that they already are. And I think that his team might even push for a trade. If you were to go Richardson-Jones out the gate, I don't think Daniel Jones is pushing for a trade.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thinking on that. But this isn't around the 317, so we can quit. I just wanted your opinion on.
Is that actually the area code?
Yeah.
Did you know
why
that?
I know that? Yes.
Because of Crowworthy?
Because of Crowworthy. I was on that podcast a few times with my guy Dustin.
Man, what a throwback.
Yeah, that was a nice pull. But Alec Pierce, I like you. Really did enjoy him coming out in 2022. Kind of a limited skill set, but I think it's what the Steelers need. Like, they need another guy that can play on the outside, pretty good blocker, stretches the field. I just think there's so much that's untapped into, and I'm not sure necessarily like this version of Aaron Rodgers is the one to get it out of him. And yeah, you're going to have to give him a second contract if you plan on him sticking around. So I guess that should be part of the conversation too. But yeah, I don't know. When I looked at the wide receiver landscape right now, a guy whose role I think significantly diminished over the last 48 hours, that's where my mind went to. So I wanted to just gauge your interest on an Alec Pierce, because looking around right now, if it's not Gabe Davis, I'm wondering where that guy's coming from. New England, I think we still need to talk about them. They probably have 8 or 9 guys that could be on NFL rosters. So Kendrick Bourne to me still sticks out like a sore thumb when I look at the money that he's due, and New England probably not wanting to pay that with the return on investment that they're going to get, considering everybody else there. A lot of talk about Jalen Polk though too, and just the 37th overall pick last year. If he's on the outs already after 1 year, he doesn't necessarily fit in terms of what the Steelers need exactly 1-to-1 or don't have. But when you're desperate for talent, you're desperate for talent. And give me the guy that I thought last year was I think he was like my 8th receiver in the class. So I'm not giving up yet. I loved all those UW receivers. Mm-hmm. I'd be fine with taking him if you can't, if it's not Kendrick Bourne.
I would be completely fine with that too. Did you have him or McMillan higher? Do you remember?
I want to say I was actually Polk over McMillan. I don't want to lie and say I was McMillan over Polk just because of the results last year. I want to say I had Polk higher than McMillan. I think McMillan was like 10 or 11 for me.
Yeah.
He was like right with Roman Wilson.
Okay. Yeah. I think that any of those guys would be fine. And I just wanted to say too, that I know you said that Alec Pierce has some untapped potential that they could be tapped into. Not necessarily 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers going to be the one to bring it out of him, but also when you compare Aaron Rodgers in his current state, how different or worse would it be than what he's already had in his NFL career? I just looked at the quarterbacks that he's had over his last 3 years. Mm-hmm. Washed up Matt Ryan, Sam Ehlinger, Anthony Richardson for the last couple of years in some of those starts. Gardner Minshew.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I don't think that Joe Flacco a little bit last year.
Flacco's the best. I
think that there's
last year's Joe Flacco got the best out of Alec Pierce. And here's why I said it was going to be funny. This isn't me saying Russell Wilson should still be the guy here, but Russ's moonball with Alec Pierce's deep threat ability probably actually would have been if you're talking about just what quarterback would have been the best fit with Pierce, it probably is Russ. But I still think Aaron can do some interesting stuff. Like, if you can utilize the middle of the field and Alec be more than just like a 9 guy, just running streaks, I think Aaron can still get some juice out of him. And like I said, he can block too. He's a good blocker. And I know people don't necessarily want to hear that when they're talking about receivers. You're looking for talent in terms of their pass catching ability, but it's what you need out of Arthur Smith's offense and guys playing in it. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe one to circle back to. We'll see if anything comes to fruition there. I would be kind of surprised because, like I said, I think Indy's trying to just squeeze every last drop they can out of this team. Like, because Steichen and Ballard are trying to save their jobs. So I doubt they're going to part with pieces. But you never know. And we're talking about this right now. I would like to get this done. Names could be vastly different that we're talking about in November when we get to the trade deadline, which I don't want to wait that long to get a receiver, but I'm just saying. If it's similar to last year when we landed Mike Williams, maybe we're talking about Pierce then, depending on how the season goes for Indy.
Yeah, that's a good point. What are your thoughts, or what were your thoughts in this past game? And then I guess just going forward, your thoughts on the offensive line and how they're moving along. I feel like the pass protection was still solid in this one. Run game was still questionable, especially in that second unit that came into the game. Zach Frazier had a couple poor snaps, and I'm not too worried about that. But just as the offensive line goes, how are you feeling right now?
I am even more bullish. Didn't know it was possible on Troy Fautanu. He's looked awesome. So I think there I have very little question. The snaps thing is weird with Zach. Like, it was something at West Virginia, but then he cleaned it up. It was something last year with Fields a little bit early on, but cleaned it up. And now it seems to be popping up again. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. But, like, I just feel like it's obviously not going to, be so big of a con where it outweighs the pros of how good he is. but I do think it's something to watch. So we'll see there.
Yeah, you could argue that Logan Lee had the better snaps on Saturday.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to Logan Lee. We'll see if he ends up making the roster. He unfortunately could be one of those guys affected by the 5 or 6 receiver thing, I think, with the defensive line math. Sam Waller, we haven't seen at all, so hard to say anything there. McCormick, I haven't noticed, and it's probably a good thing. And Broderick, I thought was better in week 1 than in week 2, but not like so noticeably bad where I think it's a talking point. What's to me, and Art had, an answer that I think made sense about this. The run game hasn't been there to the degree that we would like, and we know that's going to be the calling card of this team. So they're going to have to be good at running the football this year, and we haven't seen it be good, not only like in the preseason, but even in training camp, it hasn't been very good. Art basically said, yeah, we're not showing anything. Okay, fair enough. And also Jaylen Warren hasn't been part of training camp a ton. Like, I don't know if we've discussed this or not. He's just not taking a lot of reps. Like, they're giving them all to Caleb, really. So that's probably part of the equation too. So I'll take his word for it. We'll see how it looks early on, but I'm pretty encouraged because of the tackles, honestly, more than anything else in terms of how they've looked.
What about the depth, though? Because that's, I think, the bigger question to me. I know we're really focused on the starters, but I just think the depth is like there's been a noticeable drop off, and rightly so. I mean, they are the second unit, but there's been a noticeable drop off to me in offensive line play when they go from the first to second unit, even the first unit that is like partial first unit.
But here's the thing: is their second unit hasn't even been their second unit for the most part. It's been their third because you don't have Calvin Anderson, Spencer Anderson's playing with the ones, and you haven't had Ryan McCollum. So
that's fair.
They have their second offensive line's basically been mainly their third offensive line. So I'm not surprised with the way that they've looked, to be honest with you. There's nobody that's really played, in my opinion, within that. Like Max Sharping was maybe the one, depending on how he looked. I don't see it. I think 0 chance they make this team. So the offensive line they're going to make the team have either, to me, looked good or haven't played.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious what you think. Do you think they're going to keep 10 or 11?
Ooh, 10. I don't know who. I mean, let's go through it. Like Frazier, McCormick, Samalo, Fatanu, Broderick, McCollum, Anderson, Cook. Actually, is there another? They only keep 9.
Andrews Pete?
He isn't. I don't know. He looked better in the second game for sure, but like he's running with 3s. Like, is he gonna? I don't know. Maybe he is the one just because of like when he was added, and it was kind of like we know he's gonna make the team, but he'll probably be pretty slow getting acclimated. If they're gonna keep 10, yeah, he's probably there's not somebody else that comes to mind though. Stephen Jones has been okay. Gareth Warren got hurt and he was put on IR. Like I said, Sharping I think did himself no favors. I can't see that one happening. I don't know. They've been pretty shorthanded on offense. They played with like 10 last game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to say 9, maybe 10. Certainly not 11. I mean, if it's 11, I don't know where they're cutting from somewhere else. That to me would seem crazy. There's not 11 offensive line worth making it.
9. I mean, if they go 9, that could probably if they go 9 offensive linemen, that might keep Logan Lee his job. And they wouldn't have to cut another wide receiver if they add one.
In my opinion, it should be 9 because Spencer Anderson can play tackle as well. Cook can play guard as well. Like, you have enough versatility with your backups. In my opinion, you don't need an Andrews Pete. So unless he goes out there, he's okay. We want to briefly talk about guys that actually like this third preseason game matters for. We're kind of having that conversation right now with this offensive line, the depth. Like Andrews Pete's a guy that's probably going to make or not make this roster in this third game. Logan Lee probably going to be a guy that doesn't make this roster in the third game. The defensive backs, Tomlin left the door open for Kent and Trice, Corey Trice and Dante Kent to play in this one. I don't think either one's going to make this 53, but they're going to have to do something pretty spectacular in this Thursday finale to do so. Those are the guys that matters for. Beanie Bishop, very much on the bubble, in my opinion, with Echols now playing snaps in the slot. Does one of the running backs force their hand to keep a fourth? Lou Nichols has looked awesome. Trey Sermon's looked good. I don't think they're going to, but like those are the things to watch for in this game, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I was just kind of doing the math in my head based off how many I think of each position that they're going to be keeping. It's tight. I mean, there's not a lot of room to make this roster now, and yeah, I'll be interested to see who actually plays in this third game. I hope they play more than expected. Like, I would love to see, because they haven't rolled out someone like Slay or Ramsey, right? Like, obviously,
No,
I don't
right.
think, based off what I said earlier, I don't think they have to play. But just from a watchability standpoint goes, I'd love to see him at least for a series, see if they could dress up. But I don't know. We'll see. The roster cut days, it's getting closer. We're less than a week away from going to 53.
Yeah, next Tuesday is cut down day, so we'll see what it goes to. So I probably seem a little out of sort. Somebody texted me as we're recording here and just said, keep an eye on Allen Lazard. I've kind of moved off of saying that name because it was just put out that the Jets are looking to add at receiver. So I wasn't thinking that they were subtracting the process of doing so. So that would be interesting. Certainly. I don't know how I feel about it. And we also know the conversation is going to be that Aaron Rodgers is pushing the buttons if they trade for Allen Lazard.
Even if he was, do we care?
I don't, but you know what? Like, he's a big slot. Is he changing anything for them on the outside? Like,
probably not.
He played on the outside before, but he's best as a big slot. I can't. He's better than their other options at Z, for sure. I don't think that he's
Well, I mean, who's their Z receiver right now is probably Roman Wilson, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, and all credit to him.
All credit to him. He probably shouldn't be playing there.
Yeah. I mean, he's doing
fine, but he's impressed. He's impressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's done a solid job.
In terms of the blocking aspect, like, I'm not questioning his desire, his temperament, his willingness to do so. I don't know that he can do it on a consistent basis. I don't know that he can separate on the outside like that. I think his best, you understand the limited route tree and get him on a bunch of crosses across the middle of the field and have him rip the seam. I think that's what he's going to do best. I think Art's done a really good job at showcasing that in the preseason. I'd be skeptical about his ability to play at that Z.
Someone clip this and send it to him. Get him pissed.
He's probably, if he's gotten wind of anything that I've said on here or tweeted, I mean, he probably thinks I hate him. And to be honest, like, we met one time, I really enjoyed him. Talked about video games. Talked about how cool what his story is that he used to fly to and from high school and for football practice and like yeah. Because he's from Hawaii and he lived on a little island, and where he went to school, he had to take a flight to get to school every single day to get to a different island.
He must have lived on. Wow, that's actually really intriguing to me. I'm actually wearing a Hawaii shirt right now. If you're watching over on YouTube, love Hawaii. That's intriguing to me.
Yeah, try to figure out more. Actually, Nick Faribault wrote an article about it when he went and visited Hawaii and talked to all those guys. So maybe you can find it there and get more information on it. But yeah, he's a really cool story, and I love Roman. So
Kihei, he's from Maui.
The best for him. Okay, there you go.
My family stays in Kihei when we go to Maui. I'll be in Kihei in December.
There you go. The more you know. Small world. Okay. Keep an eye on Allen Lazard.
Wow.
I guess
he did. He flew from Kihei, Hawaii to. Sorry, not about Allen Lazard. He flew from Kihei, Hawaii to Honolulu to go to St. Louis High School. So yeah, he flew from Maui to Oahu every day. That's wild.
So the point of that, me bringing that up was just
Sorry.
the dedication that it takes to do so. I mean, not everybody's going to make that level of commitment to chase their dream. So shout out to Roman. And we'll be looking forward to watching how he continues to progress. But yeah, I guess in closing, let's keep an eye on the Alan Lazard sweepstakes and see if something happens there. 3 most likely, I'm going to go Gabe Davis, Alan Lazard, Kendrick Bourne, as we sit here right now.
Not a bad shout. I think Alan Lazard was always been likely, but the conversation has quieted in on him. But now that you mention his name, I almost forgot he existed. But now that you mention his name, makes total sense if they do it. Gabe Davis, I know earlier I said that I wouldn't see it happening just because they hadn't signed him and he left and without a second contract for a second time. But I think that if that happens, I hope it works out. And if it's not, it's going to be cheap. Kendrick Bourne, that'll be interesting because I just dropped him from our dynasty league. So just because I need to free up roster.
I don't think you need to go pick him back up if he joins the Steelers. I don't think he's going to be very fantasy relevant. But he plays the Z. I know I keep saying it, but they just need a bigger bodied guy that plays that position, can block, stretch the field a little bit. And like, if DK in any event went down, theoretically somebody that could play the X. Not as well, not produce there as much. Just play the position.
Best chronic.
Yeah.
That's your guy.
I love Ben. Also not talked about enough that his brother literally looks just like him. I thought it was him. And I was like, this is interesting that he's wearing his jersey out onto the field after a game. It's because it was his brother.
You did tell me that.
Anyways, we're going to get out of here. But first and foremost, we got to throw it to myself. Tell you guys about Keeks Barbershop. Smitty from Around the 412 here. And while I may not have much hair, the hair that I do have will not be cut by anybody besides Keek at Keeks Barbershop. My friend Christian Circle, been with us since day one. Keeks Barbershop, located 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Download the app The Cut. Book an appointment with Christian today, or you can do walk-in with Tony or Ashley. But again, Keeks Barbershop, 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Go check them out. Old school vibe in there. Absolutely love it. Cannot recommend them enough. Wouldn't go anywhere else. Maybe I'll see you there. I'm off my game tonight. Like, you know, the Game Changers ad read.
If that's what you want to call it.
Yeah, if that's what you want to call it. Final cuts are next Tuesday. What a layup to throw at the Keeks Barbershop. And I didn't take it. I had a free lane to the hoop. And didn't take it. Anyways, as I did that a lot in Winter Olympics at Central Valley. Every year was a thing right before we went on Christmas break, and there's a bunch of activities and events and stuff like that. I was a pretty good 3-point shooter in general, so I got picked to do the 3-point contest and went over when push came to shove in the actual event. So I went like in a practice round, I went like 7 of 10, and then we did the actual thing and I went over 10. So, anyways, good stuff. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review and subscribe if you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. We are there. Just search Around the 412. And whether you're watching or listening, go to the other one, completely free. Best way to support us. We talked about all of our sponsors, which you can find in the description, but have not yet told you about Marcelo Electric right above Tyler right now. Our friend and Brandon Marcelo, a.k.a. Boots, his small business serving Beaver, Allegheny, Lawrence, and Butler County. Hit him up. Residential, commercial service calls. He's got you covered. 724-614-0611. Again, Marcelo Electric, 724-614-0611. Down in the description, we'll take you to his Facebook page. All that information there, as well as pictures with all of his work and stuff like that. His work van. Hopefully he's got that AC fixed by now. I don't know. I haven't heard word on it recently, but hopefully that took place. And I also want to give a special shout out to the Horst Nickel Memorial Foundation. Did the golf outing this past Saturday. Didn't golf. Worked a hole with a friend of the program. Never been on. Oh, he might have been on here when we did live shows at Whiskey. I'm not sure, but Steve Len, DJ Left Eye Len, was working the hole with him. And he's rocking around the 412 hat. So appreciate Steve for doing that. But yeah, it was a great time. Was able to raise over $3,000 to go to cancer research. So happy about that, obviously. And shout out to Pat for signing a jersey that a non-Steeler fan won. Unbelievable. Everybody there, I think there was probably one non-Steeler fan.
Are they at least a Penn State fan?
No. And you know what? And I can't, they haven't switched up. This has legitimately been their NFL team. The New York Jets, who the Steelers play in week 1.
You know, good for you. If you're a fan of that franchise, it's probably fairly comparable to being a Pirates fan. So we understand you.
Fair. But no, it was a great time. And to be honest with you, I felt much better leaving there, obviously, than when we used to play softball. It raised more money than when we used to play softball. So I'm thinking I got to get into golf this year so I can actually participate next year. I want to play in it. That's my goal. That's my mission, is to feel comfortable enough playing in the event next year. So any tips or tricks about golf, throw them my way. I got a putting green now in my spare room. So
do you?
We'll work on that. Yeah, we'll work on that there, but need to get to the driving range.
I dare say that's the easiest part. By
the putting?
In terms of like the actual action of what you're doing, striking the ball and making it move, that's the easiest part.
Oh, I feel like it's and it's the least embarrassing. Like if you miss a putt, you can chalk it up to whatever. But like if you have a really bad drive, it goes nowhere. You hit the grass, you don't even hit the ball. Like it's
tough. And for me personally, irons are my worst nightmare. The middle game, terrible.
Yeah. Amazon accidentally sent them. So, like for prizes, you typically do like a putter and a driver, depending on, like they did like the closest to the pin, furthest putt. Actually, the hole I was working was furthest putt. But Amazon accidentally sent a 3-wood instead of a driver. So the bad scenes. But overall, great event. Looking forward to next year already. So shout out to Ross, shout out to Crouton, Jake, Nate, everybody else Zach Baker's the one that won the jersey, by the way. He's a Jets fan, but for all the work put in to make the event happen. So shout out to all those guys. But I'll quit yapping now. Follow us on everything at Around the 412. And again, as Tyler mentioned, Year 8 Rock Around the 412. That link is down below for the GoFundMe, but you can reach out to us individually at Weiler_Teach33 or at Zachary Smith PGH to hit us up, donate in other ways. That way, GoFundMe not getting a portion of those proceeds. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you want to donate through that, that's great. You're still helping out. But if you really want every single penny to go to the cause, not the best way to
if we're being real, they kind of annoyed us with the whole known prize thing and shutting down our event for a little bit. Yeah. So that's why we're taking shots.
Yeah. But anyway, hit us up on everything at Around the 412. I think I already said that. But and also, if you've noticed, it's just going to be Steelers, I think, for a little bit here until we get Penguins back, because much like the Pirates on the field, we're not showing up to do a Pirate show. So until next week, we'll get to talk about the final roster. And all right, so come back here in a week. We'll talk about what the final roster looks like and maybe get into some regular season predictions. But until then, for Tyler, for Smitty, this has been the Around the 412 Steelers show. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.